So, this episode's going to be about health and different things like nutrition, working out, then like everything that I've had to look up and search for and whatnot in the past maybe month or something, or the past 2 to 3 weeks, I would say. But yeah, there's going to be more after the intro, as always. And I do somehow think, and I just try to not make it too long. Like, this is a podcast, like you can just also listen to it and whatnot. Please check out the description, or that description actually, because there's a lot of free things that you can get. First of all, there is the link to the podcast, because this is actually a podcast and a YouTube quote-unquote show. On the other hand, you're also going to get 3 things, as I said. For example, the free PDFs of the things that I've highlighted in this episode or in other episodes. If I've highlighted something, then it is going to be in a tiny PDF. You can download it and print it and share it and do whatever with it. And there is everything in this that I've gone through in this episode, which is pretty amazing, because some people like to listen, therefore we're having a podcast. Some people like to watch, therefore we're having the YouTube videos. And some other people like to read things. And this is why there's also the free PDF. And there's as well some music, so if you do want to have some background music in this video, then please also check out the 3rd link, or it's actually, I think, the 4th link, but 3rd section, something like that. And there's also just different tracks to choose from, and they're all, I think, an hour long, so you should be fine. Everything should be fine, should be good to go. And yeah, enjoy the episode, and I'm gonna see you. So I tried to, so maybe this is the better option for you, kind of. I know, because, like, yeah, might be just better for you. But I really try to make it not too long, but I'm also not going to cut like entire things out, because everything that I'm going to say is quite somehow important. But yeah, where should I start? Maybe I should just go into this one or that one, and then I'm going to just show up some things. Maybe let's start with working out. I have recently been developing my workout plan, because I was really unhappy with how I looked, and I am still quite unhappy with how I look, because I think 2 weeks ago, it's actually quite 2 weeks in tomorrow, actually, quite 2 weeks, I've started to basically cut some calories, because, you know, I've never actually been fat. I've never really also not been skinny fat or something, you know, to maybe illustrate that. And here's some ready questions, by the way. Skinny fat. I think this is quite the beauty of just the internet and just being able to show it like this. Like, yeah, I think, yeah. Skinny fat, the left one, definitely kind of, not really. But I've not been in that way. Like, this is, I think, a skinny fat. Yeah, pretty good illustration, I would say. But I've just been like something like a little tiny bit muscular, and I don't look buff. Like, I'm not gonna be like, well, I'm such a fucking bodybuilder or something. I'm not. I clearly am not. But I've been something like, not also the left one or something. Like, I've had a little bit too much body fat, and I was quite unhappy with it, even though I have been trying to basically build up some mass over the past then, I think, a month before or something, or even 2 months. Like, the problem is with trying to gain weight is that it is fairly easy. And it's always been something that's quite hard for me, because I wasn't quite used to it. But once you get the hang of it, it's actually kind of easy. And once you actually find some food that you can eat every single day that is kind of high in calories, but is maybe even relatively low in volume, but this is like something optional if you're just really getting used to it. For me, for example, it's been like 250 grams plus, sometimes even 500 grams of oats every day after my dinner, actually. You know, I've had my regular dinner, and afterwards I've always eaten my oats as well. And I mean, oats are pretty high in calories. Oats, calories, let's actually see. I don't know, I think they're around 370 or something. Actually more. It's actually really high, 389.1 calories per 100 gram. And if you just do this times 5, then, oh no. Yeah, it's going to be quite something. It's going to be more than 1,000 calories. It's going to be like 400 times 5. It's going to be nearly 2,000 calories. And this for one fucking meal. You know, even though like on this day I've had my 500 gram thing, I have also not been eating any dinner. But still, it's been then like kind of like the majority of the calories that I've consumed on this day, because I think I've just had a little just lunch thing in school, and I've always had like 3 to 4 somehow pieces of fruits, and then the rest is going to be veggies or most often carrots, even though I just don't like carrots that much, to be honest, and or just some nuts from time to time, but not really that often. And I've eaten that, and then this was my basis quite. I've always had that in school, and I'm still quite having it. Not really, but quite. I'm having it. And then I've had my dinner, which was just something, whether it is, I don't know, lentils or some meat or some whatever. And I'm just afterwards going to go to what I'm quite not eating or trying to not eat because of certain reasons. But yeah, and then I've also had my oats, and I've always, when I'm cooking something, and I've cooked quite often, and I am still cooking quite often because I'm regularly eating something that just only I'm eating, and not the rest of my family and whatnot. So it's kind of easier for me, also because it's most often something that well, in my quote unquote, and I just really quote unquote want to say, because it's kind of not the case, in my building phase or in my bulking phase, it's completely not been a bulking phase, even though I've gained some weight, which is actually quite surprising, to be honest, because I wasn't able to gain any weight before, like no matter how much I eat. But in the end, it actually turned out to be the case that I haven't been eating that much, to really be honest. But yeah, so nowadays, to just come back to the lunch thing, I'm trying to not eat too much fruits or too many fruits, because first of all, because of the carbs. Second of all, because I'm actually fructose intolerant, quite, so, and I'm also noticing that, and I've also noticed it, that I'm gonna stink like, it's not gonna be funny, especially if you're so gassy that even in school you just actually have to hold it back and stuff. And I've actually quite had severe quote unquote problems with that also in my internships, like I don't know if I can find something. Like it's been quite some rough time, to illustrate that a little bit. Like, yes, this kind of, not really, like this seems to be a little bit like something different, but every single day after work I had to take a really big ass shit, and this big ass shit was just so gassy that I've just covered the whole toilet, basically. It's not been something nice, also not for me, because I've also then tried to, but it actually looks quite disgusting. I don't know if I can even show that. I don't even know how you're able to do that. Like, just half of it is on the ground and just, well, yeah, anyway. But this is one, well, yeah, this is one reason, and the other reason is the carbs. So, and which means that I'm cutting some calories, and that I'm also cutting some carbs because I am nowadays in my quote-unquote cutting phase, because I do not actually want to cut. I do not want to have like a dedicated cutting time and a dedicated like bulking time, because I believe that for me it is not working, because I don't want to be as lean as I possibly can, or as in good shape as I possibly can all over the time, basically, or all time. So I'm cutting a little bit of the carbs, so that I can just cut them. And I think it is just a good way to do this with the fruits, also because of the sugar there. Even though it is not a bad sugar, but the industrial sugar is bad, but it's maybe gonna translate into more fat because it's more calories simply. And yeah, which actually leads to something that's pretty important. Like, recently I've seen a study, and because I have low fat versus low carb, I've recently seen a study, and there's also pretty cool YouTube videos about that from, for example, I think Picture Fit, I think the channel is called. This illustrates it really well, and it is from the Stanford University. So I don't know really if you can say like this is definitely a good source just because it is Stanford, but I mean it is just a brand, quite. Stanford is just a brand. It is just something that we see, or I see at least, as something that's cool and whatnot, even though it is like just like Coca-Cola is, but we are associating something with this brand, and therefore we quite believe maybe more in it or not, which is kind of a mistake quite. But yeah, so the whole point of the study, and I'm probably not going to link it, but you're going to find it relatively quickly, I guess, somehow. It was conducted by Christopher Gardner and maybe even some other people, but I don't know at this point in time. And what they have been searching for, or what they've been not interviewing, what they've been doing is actually comparing like the two most common types of diets, which is first of all low fat and second of all low carb. Maybe even first of all low carb and then second of all low fat. What I'm at the time doing is lower fat. I'm trying to not consume as much fat as I did before. Like before, I've always been cooking with a lot of oil. Like everything was oily because I knew that there's a lot of calories in this oil and I wanted to just gain more weight. And therefore I thought, well, I'm going to put oil into everything. I've also added oil to my fucking oatmeal. Like it is actually pretty nice. Like it really fucking is. I shouldn't say the F word too much. Like it really is a good thing. And if you do just, I'm only looking for just letting things taste good, then I think that also adding salt a little bit, not too much because then it's going to be salty obviously, but just a little tiny bit, I think it would actually make it quite good. Like really, because salt and oil, which is by the way also something that Seth Godin was talking about in one of his interviews, I guess. Yes, I think with Tim Ferriss actually. He said that these are two things that he's not trying to use too often or too much when he's cooking, just because it is basically like cheating. Because if you add salt and olive oil, then everything is going to be better, just no matter what. And so he's trying to not use too much of these two things. But coming back to the study, what they have seen is that it doesn't make any... Well, there is a difference between having a low-fat diet and a low-carb diet. And like literally, even though the low-carb diet turned out to just lose a bit more, but not too much, so that you can say that there is some evidence behind that. Yeah. And the whole point of the study was that we should actually think about it and take care of our diet by ourselves, basically, and saying like, or just deciding what is working best for us. For me, for example, as I said before, and this is also the reason why I've then started it, quote unquote started it, to cut more fats, is that I'm not eating a lot of fats. Like the only fats that I'm most often consuming is oats, which are having roughly like 6 grams of fat per 100 gram, and nuts, as you can see here. But I'm also not eating too many nuts, and I'm now just reducing the amount of nuts that I'm eating. The only problem there is, which is might be a problem only for me, but I don't really know, because there might be some people that are doing the exact same thing as I am doing, because I'm not eating any dairy, which leaves me with with one less source of protein, because a lot of dairy products are having a lot of good proteins, even though they're also having a lot of bad fats, which is kind of the downside of that. But I'm not having them. Then I'm also not eating too many grains. The only grains that I'm eating is basically oats and barley and quinoa, and I'm not eating any rice because I've seen it's not that good, especially concerning the GI index, which is the index that stimulates your blood sugar or something, as far as I know. Let's actually look it up. The glycemic index, or GI, is a relative ranking of carbohydrate in foods according to how they affect blood glucose levels. Carbohydrates with a low GI are more slowly digested, absorbed, and metabolized, and cause a lower and slower rise in blood glucose, and therefore usually also insulin levels. And I do think, if I remember this quite correctly, the insulin levels can make you gain weight or something. Maybe I can actually... There's actually a website, glycemicindex.com, the University of Sydney. Not all carbohydrate foods are equal. Maybe there is some correlation between this and... for weight maintenance, the diagnosis study from Europe found that a moderately high protein, low GI diet is the best for long-term weight management. Yeah, so maybe I can find something. The amount of carbohydrate in the reference and test food must be the same. Low GI, high GI, blood glucose. Blood glucose and gaining weight. Like, the internet is so nice. Like, you're gonna find everything. Over time, this may The real reason you're not losing weight is your blood sugar blocking your efforts to shed pounds. The diabetes weight connection is trickier than you think. Which is an article that I've just found. The vicious cycle explained. Every time you eat, your pancreas produces insulin. This hormone helps your body harness the energy provided by food by unlocking your cells, helping to move sugar, aka glucose, inside each one, where it is used for fuel. The problem starts with insulin resistance, in which your cells no longer respond to the hormone. Weight gain can bring it on, especially if you add visceral fat, the kind of around your abdominal organs, because it churns out inflammatory chemicals that harm cells' response to insulin. Think of your body as a car, says David G. Morero, PhD, President of Healthcare and Education at the American Diabetes Association. Fill the trunk with 500 pounds of gravel, and it is hard to run. Yeah, quite. It needs more gas and it wears out the engine to get the same level of performance. That's obesity. Now think of insulin as a gas line between the fuel tank and the engine. Insulin resistance squeezes it so when you need more fuel, it is harder to get. Since it's tough for insulin-resistant cells to take glucose from your blood sugar, levels build up. Over time, this may lead to diabetes, which can damage your blood vessels and yield more weight gain. I see. Kind of. I see. So there's just some correlation. I do really want you, in general, to look everything up, because I'm not a doctor. I'm just saying what I do and what I think about and what I try to do. Does insulin make you gain weight? From the medical news today. Like, the only few sites that I'm trying to rely on is the medical news today, because I feel like that there are a good site, then Harvard, Stanford, or the other sites, but not really Healthline. Healthline, even though it also is a well-designed site, it is well done. Some informations are accurate, I would say, for me personally, but some of them are not, which is a downside and which is not good. And therefore, like, no, not really. You should not kind of rely on as many sources as you can. Let's just put it like that. Insulin is a hormone that regulates the level of glucose in the blood. Another name for this is blood sugar. The hormone works by helping the body cells to absorb glucose. Insulin causes weight gain when the cells absorb too much glucose and the body converts this into fat. Oh, I see. Yeah, okay. Now I get it. So this is the reason why having a low GI diet makes sense for weight management or weight gain in general, and also for people that are having diabetes. On the whole other side, it just makes sense that you're gonna lose weight because you're not gonna eat as many foods. Potatoes, for example, if you've cooked them, just hot potatoes, 100% on the fucking GI scale, which is like nuts. I didn't think about it, and I didn't also know that. Then actually some other veggies, and especially also some fruits. For example, something that's really low in GI is apple and oranges. Banana is something in between, like it is like in the middle of it. Oats are also in the middle of it. So they're just right to the edge of being in the middle. Like there's high GI things which start at, I guess, an index of 60 or 70, something like that. Then you're having the low, which is everything below 55. And then in between there's, I think, the medium or the just between things. Quite. So yeah, I'm trying to cut out some fats. So I've definitely lost some weight. I really have, because I'm not eating too many fats, which of course can also be due to fats in general having more calories than proteins and carbohydrates. So whereas carbs and proteins are having, I think, 4 calories per gram, fats are having 9 calories per gram, which means that even if you just eat the same amount of carbs and fat, the fat portion is still going to be more in calories than the carbs portion, basically. Which is also something to think about, because then you just don't have to cut that much, because it is just more in calories. Quite, because if you're eating the same amount of grams, basically, you just have to basically cut less for more effect, because it is just more. Quite. If this is understandable, I hope it is, kind of. But for some people, it might just be totally fine to just cut the carbs. But for me, it's not quite, and I've still just seen the results. Even though, on the whole other hand, there's a lot of people, especially when you have a look at the Men's Health fridge, and gym thing, which is a really cool series. I really liked it, and I often watch it, where people like Kevin Hart, Tom Brady, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ryan Seacrest, and other people are featured with what they're eating and how their gym looks like. And something else that they have been talking about was Zac Efron, because he was actually quite as high as I am. Didn't know that he's 173 and I'm 174. I do weight. He's 75 kilograms. He's 10 kilograms heavier than me, yeah, of course. And he's having a body fat index of 10.4, body fat percentage of 10.4, which is quite low. You know, I'm having around 11, which is a little tiny bit higher. But since he's having more weight, so it's like even more insane. But I guess like just let's have a look at some pictures, because this is also something, and I thought about it before I've started to record, that I always want to talk about that. Like there's a video on YouTube from, I think actually Men's Health, where they are basically just talking about what he did, you know, what his workout looked like and stuff, which was also something that I wanted to talk about. So I'm sorry for shifting quite a lot here. So what they said is that there was a lot of supersetting, which means that you're gonna have one exercise and you're doing the other exercise just directly afterwards without some rest and without whatever. And something that they did is that they, for example, had push-ups and then they supersetted it with some ab exercises. But they didn't have any dedicated ab days or ab leg days or whatnot. And they only had like 3 workout days in general, which is something that was quite nuts for me. Like, of course, there must have been like a lot of conditioning and a lot of cardiovascular things. But since you're also supersetting, which is more than of an exhausting thing and more calorie burning than just the quote-unquote regular kind, yeah, you know, still only 3 times, but he looks really good, like really good. And he's really lean. And it's amazing, but also like how symmetric his body is in general. Like that's pretty amazing to see. Like his abs are really quite just fully symmetric and stuff. This is pretty amazing to see, really. So you can definitely look up his exact workout plan, but for dieting, his trainer, and it is actually his exact trainer that also did that YouTube video for, I think it was actually Men's Health. He didn't really talk about like the dieting part of it. He really looks good. Like there's nothing to argue there. But what I know, and this is the point that I was willing to make, like a lot of people that you're then gonna look up, because there's different videos of people just talking about how they did it and stuff. They're gonna first of all, I mean, like it's gonna be easy if you're having a personal trainer that's trying to do that with you, of course. Especially because there is some learning curve and there is something that you have to learn, and there is like just some general things that you have to understand and have to know, especially like what foods are containing what, and what foods are high in this and that and that stuff. Like this is not something that's known by everyone, even though a lot of people know that. I'm happy for that and about that. But yeah, there is some learning curve. But what I wanted to say is that a lot of people that are doing a transformation like that, or quote-unquote body recomposition, yes, they're cutting carbs because of, and I've then also tried it because I was interested in it for a few days, but not fully, like, you know, still. And this is also the reason why I've initially started to cut the fruits, because they're high in carbs, quite only carbs, even though a lot of water as well. But yeah, still. To just see whether it is working. And I have to say, like, it is working, even though, like, on the complete other side, it is also the case that you are cutting a lot of calories in the end. And the lower you are with your calories, the more weight you're probably gonna lose, quite, you know. But it's not gonna be easy, and it's also not gonna be that of a satisfying life if you're just constantly hungry, but super duper hungry, like really not. So yeah, just cutting, like, the rule of thumb somehow is having a deficit of 500 calories if you're just trying to lose weight, or 300 calories if you just do not want to have it as tough, basically, and or a surplus of 300 or 500 so that you can gain weight. And it is something that just physics says, if you're just having more calories than you need, you're gonna gain weight, and if you have less calories than you need, you're gonna lose weight, basically. But yeah. Well, let's actually see what body recomposition, 12% body fat to 10% body fat. I mean, like, I think this is a good example. Like, some people do just have, like, not good genetics. And I would argue that I'm also a person that's having not good genetics. Fortunately. But I mean, like, this is just, yeah. It is what it is. I think, and as far as I know, body recomposition refers to being just fats and then being lean and muscular or something. Or just the other way around. Well, even though this doesn't make any sense. But it is a twofold thing that you're going to lose weight and you're going to also build muscle, which is something that a lot of people say you can't. Some people say you can. Yes, it's difficult, I would say. And then there's going to be something that's called carb cycling, where you're going to consume, or I think also calorie cycling quite in the end. But if you're carb cycling, you're basically consuming more carbs when you're just working out. And if you're not working out on some rest days, you're going to consume less carbs, which is, by the way, something that I'm trying to do today quite. Which is going to amplify again the whole fat burning thing of this rest day. So yeah, but maybe if we just Zac Efron diet, maybe we can find something. And there's a lot of great resources on YouTube and on Google in general. Lean proteins, whole grains. I think you've been surprised to hear that I could eat like a beach bum to fuel his 12. Why is it like just so fucked up? You won't be surprised to hear that Zac Efron couldn't eat like a beach bum to fuel his 12-week Baywatch transformation. 12-week is 3 times 4, 3 months. It's actually not that much, to be honest. I implemented an all-organic whole diet, a whole food diet, says Murthy, which is the trainer of him. There were 5 categories of food Efron was permitted to choose from to put together his meals, and these are the foods that Murphy allowed him. I do actually want to... What is this? Disable ad blocker. No, I'm not going to disable my ad blocker. Okay, good. Gonna disable my ad blocker. Here you go. The first one is lean proteins, like chicken breast, turkey breast, pork loin, egg whites, fish, and steak. Lean cuts like sirloin. Okay, yes. Then whole grains like quinoa, brown rice, or oats, and healthy fats like seeds, nuts, and avocado, however. Then high fiber fruits like apples, pears, and all kinds of berries, and veggies, all kinds. Efron also supplemented with whey protein, unflavored, adds Murthy, who also stipulated. What is stipulated? Is this even a word? It is actually. It could contain no other ingredients. He also had a minimum of 100 ounces of water, which is 3 liters per day. But there was something going on, as far as I remember, that he wasn't, of course, not eating the exact same meal all the time. Like, I think they started with more calories and building some size and then cutting it down a tiny bit. But without trying to not build too much fat, actually. So yeah, this is quite what I've been looking up the past days for me, and to just see whether I can just make something better out of me, and I'm gonna update that, I think. At this point in time, I am definitely skinnier, but I'm not happy, quite, because I do want to have a little bit more size, and I do just have to see what I'm gonna do. Today is my rest day. Yesterday's also been my rest day, and tomorrow I'm gonna start with my workout. And I've also created a plan with supersets to just emulate that and to just have more like of a more of a cardio thing as well, because I just like this more, actually, to just have more exercises and whatnot. But I'm actually having to look over this once again, because I think that I might be having just lower or too low of reps, which, by the way, was something that they also did, like drop settings or drop setting or drop sets, which is you're gonna start with 20 pounds of dumbbells, and you're gonna do 10 reps, and then you're gonna have 10 pounds of dumbbells, but you're gonna do 20 reps. Yes, quite. And in general, I think they were pretty high in reps, quite. This is something that we can see back and biceps. Maybe we can just have a look at this. Just just because it's not working anyway. 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps with 12 seconds, but they're not really talking about like the whole supersetting thing, which is definitely something that I've seen, and I've definitely also think that it just makes sense, I guess. Maybe we can find it really quickly, or I can find it. Zac Efron workout. Let's see. Is this like the same thing? Yes, it is. And as they're saying as well, Efron's training was constantly evolving, but for man's fitness, Murphy condensed the essence of it into 3-day split, working back and biceps one day and legs on another, and shoulders and chest and arms on the 3rd day. Abs are in there too, a little every day, which is, as I said before. And this is the video Zac Efron's Baywatch workout explained by his trainer. And yeah, maybe you can actually find it somehow. Maybe they're talking about how it works. Efron's training was constantly evolving, so Murphy condensed into 3 days. But it's actually the exact same thing. The main feature of the workout is supersetting. Oh yeah, doing 2 exercises back to back with no rest in between. Not only does this approach save time, but it also doubles cardio, burning more calories and enhancing the pump that drives more nutrition-filled blood into the muscles for fast growth. I don't know. I just doubt that the pump itself has something to do with the growth. But yeah. Since it was important that Efron not just look like a lifeguard, but also performed like one, that he also had some agility and speed things. Efron's Baywatch workout, back and biceps, 3 sets, 8 to 12 reps, and then 0 seconds of rest. And then you're gonna have, I see, you're gonna have 1A and 2A. Seated cable rows, pull down, cable row. Or you're gonna have this and then that. Oh, I see. I think they also just before talked about that maybe. But you're gonna have, for example, straight arm pull downs for 8 to 12 reps, and then you're gonna have immediately afterwards 3 sets of ab rollouts, which is a superset, and then afterwards you're gonna have 60 seconds of rest per set, I would say. Yes. Yeah. I think this is gonna be it with the episode But yeah, I forgot about something. The question of the day. The question of today is if you're eating healthy. Are you eating healthy? Please ask yourself and be honest to yourself, are you eating healthy? Because I believe that it is such an amazingly big part of having a healthy lifestyle, having a good lifestyle quite as well, and being happy. Because, I mean, if you're ill constantly and if you're just fucked constantly, then you're not gonna be that happy, I guess. Quite. So yeah, this is the question of today. Really short, really short and also really late, but yeah. I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success, and also hope that you're going to remind yourself when you're going to be remembered, which means that you're just going to be a nice person, then you're going to be remembered as a nice person. 3 other questions that I'm having for you are, why are you here? What are you trying to change? And what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully going to show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea. And with that being said, thank you very much. Thank you for being here, doing this with me, and I'm hopefully going to see you the next time. So, bye-bye.